In this lesson, we're going to be talking about solving for a unit rate. When computing unit rates, it's important to pay special attention to how you're setting up your rates. For example, it says Tom Brady has 606 career touchdown passes and has played 22 seasons in the NFL. Is it more useful to know how many touchdowns he has per season? Or is it more useful to know how many seasons it takes to get one touchdown? If I want to find per season, our unit rate, we're going to need to find for one season. Remember, it's implied that we're talking about one here. Whereas if we're talking about per one touchdown pass, we need touchdown on the bottom. So our rates are going to be set up differently based on the unit rate we're trying to find. So let's find the first one. How many touchdown passes per season? Well, I don't know how many touchdowns. This is what I'm trying to find. I'm going to use the information they gave me to set up my rate. I need seasons on the bottom and touchdowns on the top. Now we know to find our unit rate, this line means division. So we can do 606 divided by 22. And we know the numerator always goes inside as our dividend. Our divisor would be our denominator. So 22 does not go into 6. How many times does 22 go into 60? Again, putting my answer right above the 60, 2 times. 2 times 22 is 44. Our next operation, we would subtract. Remember to borrow here. 60 minus 44 is 16. I'm going to keep going. I'm going to bring down my 6. And now I'm thinking, how many times does 22 go into 166? 22 goes into 166 7 times. You can round to 20 to kind of estimate. You might need to be doing some scrap work off to the side. I don't know 22 times 7 off the top of my head necessarily. So I might be doing some work off to the side to figure that out. 7 times 22, 154. Again, we're going to subtract. Whoops. We're going to subtract. We get 12. Disregard this. 12. I need to keep going. Actually, let's see if I can get rid of it so we don't confuse us. Nope, I can't. All right. I need to keep going. Pretend the 110 is not there. I'm kind of giving you a little bit of a answer. I am not going to work with the remainder. I'm going to use a decimal and a 0 to continue. Now we know the decimal has to go up into our quotient, and our 0 comes down into our problem. So now I'm thinking, how many times does 22 go into 120? 22 goes in 5 times. 5 times 22 is 110. That's where that 110 came from, a little earlier than I meant for it to. Subtract, we get 10. We don't need another decimal because we already have one up in our quotient. So we're going to add another 0, bring it down. And we're thinking, how many times does 22 go into 110? So 22 goes into 100 4 times. 4 times 22 is 88. When we subtract, we get 12. And we'll notice, okay, if I keep going, I'm going to bring down a 0. I'm going into 120 again. So we know this 54 is actually going to repeat, which we can draw a line above. It's going to be 27.545454, etc. So let's put this into context. He gets almost 28 touchdowns in one season. Now, what if we wanted to find how many seasons for one touchdown pass? Now when I'm setting up my rate to find my unit rate, I need touchdowns with touchdowns and seasons with seasons. So in this case, my numerator is 22. I'm going to be dividing 22 by 606. We know it doesn't go into 2. Oops. It doesn't go into 22. So we're going to have to do our decimal 0 to continue. Bring our decimal up into our our quotient. Now I'm thinking, does 606 go into 220? It still doesn't go in, so I'm going to need to show that with a 0. 0 times 6, 6. Right, so it didn't go in here. I'm not sure why this isn't showing up. I apologize. It didn't go into 22. We brought down a 0. brought up our decimal, still didn't go into 220. Went in 0 times, subtract, so I still have 220. I can add another 0 and keep going. Bring down my 0. How many times does it go into 2,200? Again, might have to do some estimating. You can round this to 600 to be thinking about your answer, doing some calculating off to the side if you need to. Goes in 3 times. 3 times 606 would be 1,818. I'm going to subtract to continue. Again, having to do some borrowing here. I can add another 0 to continue. How many times does it go into 3,820? 6 times. 6 times 6 is 36, so 6 times 606 would be 1,636. I subtract. So if I was to round my answer, I can look, the 6 is 5 or higher. This 3 is going to have to round up to a 4. So we get 4/100ths of a season, which is not very far into the season, before getting 1 touchdown. In this case, I think this information would be more useful for a problem like this. But again, we're just kind of highlighting the fact that a unit rate, for every rate, we can find 2 unit rates, and it depends on the question being asked. Pause this video and try the next problem.